Welcome to Before, During, After, a Smirk Experience podcast about performance from the inside. Every week, I'll sit down with a professional comedian to unpack how they prepare for a gig, what they're thinking about while they're on stage, and how they reflect once it's over. Because great performances don't just happen, they're built. This week's guest is Mike Capozzola, a New York comic who's gigged all over the world and worked on both sides of the camera in Hollywood. We discuss adapting material for different audiences, structuring a set in the moment, and assessing a performance once it's done. Plus, how physicality can change how jokes land. Let's get into it. Let's take it from when a booking is confirmed, leading up to the show night, first of all. What would you be looking to do in that time?
From a practical point of view, I get a jump on it. I finally, and I'm talking like really recently, if it was paper, the ink would be drying. I just finally made an electronic press kit or an EPK, which it's got quotes, links to performance photos, and a couple headshots and credits and stuff like that. I have seen, and this is just part vanity, but I've seen where I don't say to the booker, "Can I send you a photo?" They go and find the most ridiculous thing. It could be like I don't know where these. I didn't even these half of them I didn't know they existed until like appearing on Thursday. What? I do resent when they don't ask for the photo and find something that is just ridiculous.
Yeah,
But
right.
that's the tiniest part of the funny world.
Yeah, I know. I wonder if there's a capability of kind of sweeping Google of all of your images and then taking some out that you do, I've no idea how that works. So you'd be
Well,
doing
Sam,
20. Go on.
here's the problem though. The day job I do acting stuff, and I had done a couple of stock shoots in my early days. So there's photos out there that back then were funny to me. So I'd like post them or tag them or whatever. But some of them are kind of stupid where I look like a scientist or a grandpa or I'm tutoring some kid in math, some kind of, and they're like, nothing. It doesn't say like, here's your funny guy for tonight. It's like, here, the accountant will be there too, you know.
Oh yeah, some of the I now basically host the shows that I run, but I spent years, gigging all around the country, and you could do an hour at Edinburgh just on some of the Looney Tunes that run gigs, and I probably include myself in that. But yeah, it gets us, it attracts a certain. I always think it often attracts the sort of people that if they went to a school reunion 30 years after they left and someone said, "What do you do now?" And they said, "I work in comedy," and the people would be like, "Really?"
Yeah,
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh
yeah,
yeah. This is what I do.
yeah,
The
yeah,
only trouble is that it would just be full of in jokes that other comics would know and no punters. So
yeah.
maybe we'll put that on the maybe pile. So you're doing 20-minute sets. Would you change a set very much depending on where the gig is?
Yeah. I've I'm 8 years in. I've kind of got a process where it's not geographical exactly, but the further I am from London, I used to sweat it where I felt like I was too much of an alien. And I did a show in Hull, and I could see people. This is like 8 months after I arrived, but I felt a couple people in the crowd looking at me as if like one of the Sopranos had stepped into their garden and just threw their cigar in the rose bed. You're
Yeah.
like, I don't know about this guy." But now I have so much material about my time in England, and it works. It works better farther out. I seem more exotic, I think, in some little. They're not getting too many Italian American New York acts floating through certain places, you know. So
Yeah.
as long as I have an open mind and I have half a chance to do what I do, hopefully on top of the comedy, they'll go, I don't mind this American. That's the most I could hope for.
No, you've picked up the British art of self-deprecation in the time that you've been here, Mike.
Oh, I don't know about that, Sam. I'm sure there are people who do that much better than me with the self-deprecation. Can I
You're,
tell you how I fucked up? Can I say fucked up? I really fucked up at the post office. I had a I had a brief scene in Men in Black International, and the guy at the post office, I had talked to him all the time. His name was Terry, nice guy. We just bullshit about the weather. And then there was a long line of people. Terry spots me and goes, "Mate, I saw you in Men in Black. I saw you." And trying to be, and I saw people in the line at in the queue turn around and like, "Who's this guy? I don't know. I don't understand him." You know, like, I was like, I switched to, I was like, I got to really handle this deftly. How did you spot my 1 second on screen? And mate, it was more than 1 second. And try to be grateful. You don't need more stage time and screen time. I was like, "Ah." That was my one time, my first out of the gate self-deprecating maneuver.
yeah,
And
right. Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
blew it big time.
Which, yeah, got it. So different stuff, and you're absolutely right. I've noticed different stuff works in different places, and yeah, what you said's true. Places like Hull in general are over the moon that there are comedians there doing gigs, whereas London can be a little bit kind of too cool for school. Like, my uncle was at school with Michael McIntyre. Make it good. Whereas it's
Okay.
more of a kind of a ba ba. It's more of a thing when you're out in the sticks. How about remembering bits of sets, Mike? Is you got anything? How do you get it locked in there?
Uh, I think I do myself a disservice because I always move it around every set, even if it's the same jokes. I don't want to like, let's say I have a show tonight and I have the crumpled set list in my pocket from last night. I don't want to just like, oh, that'll do. For whatever reason, out of like superstition, I don't know. I will move things around, but it makes it harder to something that would normally.
Yeah.
I like when they flow though, I like working on it. Like to me, it's like the way people work on Sudoku or something or crossword puzzles. I like sequencing bits, and I love discovering where like, oh my God, they both involve bird deaths. They should be back to back here. It would be weird to like, is he back? Is he back to talking about bird deaths 15 minutes later? You know, they belong, the bird death bits probably belong together.
Yeah, right. Yeah, 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 yeah. Exactly. It's very satisfying when it's almost like
Yeah.
putting like a jigsaw together, isn't it? You're like, oh, look at that. That fits perfectly there. I know. Yeah, the I've
It's a
thought
good
quite a
feeling.
lot. I've thought quite a lot about the order of jokes, and it's fascinating the difference that it makes. Like if you
Mhm.
start with the one time that you ever bought crystal meth, then people are like, yeah, I don't know about this. This guy's a bit
Yeah.
sketchy. But if you start about the time you're visiting your nan in hospital and everybody likes you, then
And
10
relates to
minutes,
that. Yeah. It's
then
relatable out of the gate.
yeah, right. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
There's probably a segue between those two. But if you do it that way round, then even though you're the guy that's buying crystal meth, you're also the guy that visited your nan in, and you had a little
Exactly.
laugh with the old girl in the bed next to
Yeah.
her, and yada yada. I can forgive him that. But if you do it the other way round, by the time you get to the bit about visiting your nan, they're already like, nah, fuck this guy. I don't like
It's
it.
true, man. Sam, is so true. And that comes down to reading the room where they're, if it's an older crowd, I've seen it sometimes with a mature crowd enduring material from a comic who doesn't read the room, but also in credit to the comic, they don't have any life experience. Some of them are young and their whole world is porn, Tinder, Uber, perfume, my roommate's dick, whatever it is. And these people who are paying mortgages may have buried a friend this week, like whatever that real life stuff.
Yeah.
And like Tinder didn't refund my money and Bumble. But if they don't have the material, it's not even about reading the room. It's about the promoter thinking we should put this person in.
Yeah. I know exactly what you mean. You're absolutely. So what, how would you read a room when you turn up to a gig? Say, geographically it's wherever it is, either it's in a big city or it's in the middle of nowhere. When you turn up, what are your little kind of cues?
I think it sometimes feels like not a closed community, but you can tell when it's a regular crowd, and there might even within the regulars, there's a few that stand out. Like, don't pay any attention to Nigel; he's a regular and he likes to be part of the show.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
gotta okay, so there'll be crowd work with Nigel. Okay, I gotta. I don't like crowd work. I have no patience. I have no interest in crowd work, but I know it's some of these. Nigel, it's not a full. Nigel has promised the full show. Nigel will be part of the show
yeah,
and it seems every local gig, and the further I get out there, they might even have an assigned seat. They might be in the way, like at a press conference, an established journalist is kind of in a fixed position. And they could always, Kenny,
yeah,
that.
yeah. Nigel, what do you think about?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. In
So,
my experience, they're often people that never quite had the bottle to do stand up themselves, but have got just enough to shout out in a dark room. And it's like,
anonymously in the dark, yeah, and
yeah,
everyone knows their voice, and maybe somebody will police them and say, Nigel, it's not that kind of show, or Nigel, he's not that kind of comic. He doesn't have any, you're not helping, like that.
yeah, well, yeah, exactly. And you get some lunatics that think that they're like helping a show if
Yeah.
they shout something out. And when I host shows, I always say,
Yeah.
don't do that. If you want to heckle anyone, heckle me. I don't care. But what this
Yeah.
comic has got to say will be better than them politely telling you to shut up. So let them get on with it. But
Yeah, it's good when they say it's good that you said that, and I like when the host will say that. It makes a big difference where they're like, hey, speak when you're spoken to. Almost like don't tease the wildlife in the cage
yeah,
where they
right.
can,
Yeah. Exactly that. Nah, people need to be told. I don't mind. You got any tips dealing with interruptions, heckles, someone who wants to get involved? How do you deal with that if there's a Nigel or some other smart ass?
This isn't me downplaying it or being modest. I don't, I don't have any, I have a zero tolerance policy for somebody screwing with my flow. I know it's really supposed to be a dialogue or at least feel like a dialogue,
Yeah.
but it just gets in the way. I resent it. It's just like, it's something I have to deal with where it's like, I have jokes I want to get to that I know will be funnier than me having to like, all right, what do you want to, like that. You know,
Exactly.
and because we spent so much time building it, it's almost like you're laying dominoes when we're laying out a set list and like it's a dominoes thing. And if somebody interrupts it, it's almost like they've taken a piece out of the that's supposed to happen, or God forbid, slammed the whole thing down ahead of time. Like the show, good night, I'm done here, which has never happened, but it could. Who knows it depends on their agenda, you know.
Yeah.
We were talking about before the show, and I remembered I don't remember who the comic was, but there was a comic when I was really young, like, I mean, just starting in comedy. Let's say I was like 21 or 20 or 21, whatever. And he was so good, and his segues were incredible. And I asked him afterwards, and all the comics across the board were always the older comics. And I drained every possible neuron of their patience with my questions. There was no like, I have a question.
Yeah.
They literally had to be getting in their car, like, great working with you, Mark. It's Mike. And I asked him about the segue. I was like, man, he's like, it's funny you mentioned that. He said that to me, it's the connective tissue. It makes everything flow. And I was like, it was, there was no like, let's see, what else can I tell you before I get off stage? There was none of that. This guy was like, pow, pow, pow.
Yeah,
And
that's it.
Sam, this is what he did. And I thought this was so cool. He, he said he lays it out on, you've probably seen this in like crime scene moments in movies. Like he had index cards, not on the wall, but maybe on a wall, but he'll lay them out and move things around like tiles. And he will see that they will suggest to him a flow or no flow, and like, train disaster, my mom's sink. Can I link the mom's sink and the train disaster somehow? It's a disaster to her, whatever it is.
Yeah, yeah,
And it changed everything for me. It's almost like when, if somebody's a musician and they're like, and this guy showed me what a C minor suspended fifth sharp is.
yeah,
And you're like, and they're like, oh, that's the chord. It's a C minor suspended. Ah. And from that day on, like I laid it out with index cards back in the day, no more. But it was a great exercise to see things like tiles and
yeah,
also that feeling. And this where it's suddenly like, this should be the opener. Holy cow, this is a great establishing moment. It's tight. It's who I am. There's no faff. This is no longer just that funny thing in the middle. It's taken on a life of its own. It's now, please welcome the stage.
yeah. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, you are spot on. So many people don't realize the amount of work and preparation that goes into these performances. You see someone, and it's like talent, I think, is what lazy people you use not to try. Oh, he's all right. He can just do that. He can just make the link between the train crash and his mum. It's like, no, he can't just do that.
Yeah,
He spends
yeah,
hours moving these around until he has some kind of eureka moment and goes, oh my God,
yeah.
that's it. If everything moves one space that way, then this bit goes there.
Hmm.
And oh my God, I've done it. That's it. That's the amount of work that goes into it. Do you think much about things like body language when you're performing?
It's changed over the years, but I try to do more. I love doing the act outs. I can't even. I've been sitting on my hands for half of this, so I'm not blocking the screen. Like it's hard. I like to gesticulate.
Well, it's your Italian heritage, isn't it?
It's what we do. It's hard
Well,
to do.
that's that's the
You
thing
know,
about racial stereotypes. They're normally true.
yeah. I wanted to import as much of that as I can, but I do lean into it if I am in a faraway English village. They're not getting this floating through. If they're getting one of me floating through town and he's not a comic, they're going to get picked up by the local police force. Like, can I ask you what you're doing here? What's the problem? Am I walking too fast? Like, come, why don't we ask you a couple questions? But if I'm like, I'm performing tonight at the pub, then, okay,
Okay.
off you go.
So you would what? Act out bits and stuff like that to bring them to life in certain parts. When you're planning it, do you ever think to
Yeah.
yourself, oh, that'll be a bit if I do like a kind of funny walk there to show what I'm talking about, that'll get another laugh. Is it stuff like that?
I can picture me doing it, and I don't think I practice it. I just let it happen. Even if I don't think about it, it will happen. And there are bits that have grown over time where the physicality is so absurd or is so overextended for a moment where it's like it's really in their face. It's not
Yeah,
just the words. And it's a good feeling because they know you're working up there.
yeah,
You're not just like, which I wish the material was just enough, funny enough that no act out is needed. I go for that with the secret sauce. If the act out is added,
yeah,
I'd like to think that if it was record just audio only, the jokes would do the job. But by the way, if you're there at the show and seeing the faces and the act outs or the twitching or whatever, that it adds a little extra. You're getting a 3D effect.
mm,
Sam, we were talking about Hull. I want to mention something that backs up what I was saying, and you might find this funny. Hull, like I said, I was there like maybe 8 months after I'd moved to town. Doesn't matter which comedy club in Hull. Doesn't matter. We'll just say it's one of those purpose-built comedy. with a loungy feel. And when I arrived for the gig, and I'm always early, I'm a pro. There was a table of like it feels like 15. It was a family reunion. They had been drinking for hours.
Brilliant.
Like there's empty pitchers. They were smashed at 6 p.m., 7 p.m. Show start. And then it became them having their family reunion where the comics were the problem. They were in the background and just wouldn't shut the comics wouldn't shut the fuck up. And they're all just like, ah, you know, ah. And the owner prudently, from a money point of view, didn't cut them off, didn't say, I think 5 pitchers each is ample during a spoken word event. Would you mind chilling out? Now when they're like, four more, like holding up 5 fingers and going, four more pitchers in the middle of the show, not even like at the interval, like four more. And
Wonderful.
then at some point, I lost my mind and I yelled, shut the fuck up for 5 minutes. And the crowd went crazy.
Right.
And I asked this woman in the front row, I was like, why did that get the biggest laugh all night? She's like, we've seen it live. I was like, oh, like
Yeah.
The Sopranos or something. Yes, do it again. I was like, why don't you shut the fuck up for 5 minutes? And, and I became the shut the fuck up for 5 minutes guy.
Right.
That was my thing. I don't
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah. That's when, as a comic, you want the promoter or the owner to be a little bit more kind of proactive in what they are or aren't doing and cracking on a little bit.
Sam, somebody had gotten their ear bitten off at an earlier show, like in that calendar year, and the comic who was on after me mentioned it on stage about somebody's ear getting bitten off in a fight at that comedy venue in Hull, and the owner or manager yelled at her. And I tried to diffuse things by saying, I think you guys are given a gift with that fight with the ear thing. You have a slogan now, like the Hull comedy blank, anything can happen, which didn't diffuse things. But to me, that sounded fun. You never know what'll happen on Fridays at the Comedy Blank in Hull.
It sounds more fun than having your ear bitten off. If you ever get to a stage where you think a gig is starting to go wrong, where there's, like, that one didn't land, or I'm not really sure if they're getting this, do you have any kind of like, gears to go through, changes of direction or anything like that?
I have rescued it in the past with impressions, almost treating it like you're at a kid's party and like, what do you want? You want impressions? What do you want from me? Like that, but it's such an abrupt change and it involves the crowd and some of the impressions, and I would only save them for this. They're so ridiculous that the crowd is forced to kind of like, what am I watching? At least they're facing forward now.
Yeah, right.
You know,
Yeah.
what
Yeah,
what's
yeah,
going on up
yeah.
there? I did one of them last night just because I like to keep it fresh, almost like making sure your fire extinguisher is charged. I like some of these I like to trot out
Yeah.
just to make sure that the wheels are inflated on the getaway car, like that. But it's Colonel Sanders being bit unexpectedly by a zombie while shooting a commercial for chicken. And it's a ridiculous thing. And also it's just weird enough where the laugh always comes a few seconds after they've seen it. I do the thing and then 1,000, 1,000. They got to process what they've just seen, which is Colonel Sanders getting bitten unexpectedly by a zombie while shooting a commercial for chicken.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's always handy to have a couple of little kind of emergency secondary ripcords that you can pull. Mike, what about after a gig is finished? What do you do then to sort of work out what worked, work out what didn't, any morals, lessons, learnings moving forward?
I try to record it. I don't always record it. I don't shoot a ton of video, but I'll leave the phone somewhere and record it.
Yeah.
Um, depending on how loud it is. I don't have a car here, so I'm on the train, and it depends if it's like a loud train, also how high up I have to pump my own voice into my head to hear and compare against like it's really like a post-mortem where I'm going like the let's say the set list is this, and I'm just I put a line through everything that work. I'll circle one that this I need to lean into it more. This maybe I'll go back to but it is a kind of post-mortem checklist.
And how often do you tape yourself and play it back? Would that be every gig? Most gigs? Some gigs?
As much as possible. I'd say most gigs. I haven't finished watching last night. I did a character. I don't do it too much, but I tried a character that I've been working on, and it's work. This is the work of it. This isn't for me. This isn't the fun part. Watching the show, and like, because I know some of the, yeah, okay, that worked. And like, what was it that did finding the thing? What was the thing in real time that I thought last night? Man, I got to tighten this up, or this should be the opener, or what was that bit? It's really just a fight with the memory. Oh,
Because what I've found is that when you're up there doing it, it's a bit like patting your head and rubbing your belly to
mm,
also try and analyze what you're doing because you're kind of just in the middle of it. You're thinking of so many different things. Your brain's going like the Matrix computer. And to then add into that analysis, you get a steer. You obviously know if people are laughing or not, but to actually like break down exactly what you're doing in real time is very hard. But when you play it back, it's just like, ah, that's so obvious. I can't believe I didn't
yeah,
notice that.
yeah. The hindsight. Adam Bloom, who wrote a great book on comedy, Finding Your Comic Genius. Have you worked with Adam, or do you know the book?
I I do know. I've never worked with Adam, but I know him. But I'm writing that book down right now. Finding your
A lot
comic
of people are reading it. It's a good book, and I'm not mentioning it because I did the cartoons in the book because that would be wrong. But I was going to say, Adam, as far as I know, he doesn't really go up with a set list. We were chatting, and he just feels the energy and decides, oh yeah, I can ride this wave, and then like he was like, I want to bring it down to this level because this is a little thinkier. It's a little more elastic and abstract, and I can't have elastic and abstract in the middle of fighting a bear, whatever it is. And then, so he to me, this guy is almost like a DJ who feels like, oh, you know what? It's time for some Stevie Wonder, and they're
Yeah,
queuing
yeah,
up the
yeah,
Stevie
yeah,
Wonder, and
yeah,
then they
yeah,
feel like, these people are
yeah,
flagging. I'm going to play a slow dance,
yeah, 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 yeah,
and then, but I can't just go from the slow dance up to uh, James Brown. I gotta, I gotta soften them up a little before I send them into James Brown town, and so the
yeah,
DJ is monitoring
yeah,
everything about the emotions of the crowd. He can feel it like it's a smell or something. Adam has
yeah.
that ability with the padding.
Yeah, right. That is like sort of Jedi Master type stuff to be able to do
Hmm.
that. That is
Yeah.
and it's a perfect comparison with a DJ. A DJ would have to know, like back in the old days when you had like a box of records, you would have to know every single record in that box, like the back of your hand, and go, I know what we need now. We need a
Hmm.
Sister Sledge track. Bang! Yeah, Sister.
Right.
You need the same encyclopedic knowledge of
Of your own material.
every joke. You need a lot of you need to have written a lot of bloody different stuff, and B, you need
Yeah.
to know it all and be able to say, oh, I know what I need now. The bit about the bird dying at the start of the podcast would go in
Yeah.
perfectly. For anyone looking to improve either their comedy or their communication in general, Mike, what would be a good tip that they could focus on, in your opinion?
My 4 week intensive course for only 1,000 pounds. No, I don't have to. I'm just kidding. No. Uh,
You can plug it if you like.
I don't have one. I don't have a course.
All right.
I, it's it isn't it it changes from day to day where you like nobody could really claim that they've cracked the code. Like I know how to do. I got to crack the code. I remember again. This goes back to early on, and I do feel like I picked up a lot. I kept my mouth shut. I observed, and especially if I caught a ride with a comic, like they
Yeah.
were captive, and like, and they didn't mind talking about it. Comics can talk comedy for 6 hours on a drive. That there's no
Yeah.
need for the radio. Nobody's
Yeah.
we get
Yeah.
we can there's a brotherhood with comics where it's the same way where like a firefighter in France is a brother to a firefighter in Egypt. They are brothers. It's a fact. That is the that and I remember this is the point I was going to say, and I think it was that same guy where who I asked about transitions and him laying them out on index cards and moving them around like a shell game. I think I didn't used to say exactly this, but it's like, any other tips before you go? But I remember him saying, listen, Mike, you ask good questions. Let me tell you something. You're going to hear 100 different things. You just find what works for you. Everybody's going to have 100 different ideas. You do this, you do this, you do that. Whatever works for you. And that I could tell was like, good night, we're done here. I got a long drive. Good luck. I remember that. Like, you find what works for you. If he had a cigarette, he would have like stamped it out. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
right.
good.
No, absolutely. I'm always astounded at the number of people that don't ask more experienced people questions. I don't know if it's like a pride thing or what, but like you, I was exactly the same. Soon after I started in comedy, I did a lot of work for a national comedy agency called Mirth Control. And because
I
I
know
was
Jeff. Yeah.
yeah, right. Jeff Whiting, brilliant. That the grounding that gave me was because it would be all kinds of gigs. You would go from a
Yeah.
beautiful theatre that's like, oh my God, what a wonderful, to like a microphone in the corner of a pub just full of locals.
Yeah.
No one's paid to watch the comedy.
But you got to crack that one too.
Yes, you do. And that goes back to reading a room, doesn't it? What in the theatre, if two people are talking, you can stop the gig and say, Oi, what's going on down there? This isn't telly. I can see
Yeah.
you. And they stop and go, "Oh, sorry, sorry, sorry," and shut up. But you quickly turn up at that gig and you think, well, that ain't going to work.
No.
If I say to a bloke at the bot, Oi, why are you talking to that fella next to you? He'll say, because me and him come in there every single day and talk. A better question, mate, is why are you talking with that microphone?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And
You're in the wrong.
that he's not wrong. So you've got to
Mhm.
be like, oh, what we got in there? You two look like you've been in there a bit. What's your name? And you bring them into the gig. Oh, yeah, I'm Terry and he's Steve and blah, blah, blah. Oh, we got Terry
Yeah.
and Steve over there. So that is yeah, sorry, that was my point. I I was a driver, so and there would be quite a lot of comics like you who didn't drive. So Jeff needed to pair up experienced non-driving comics with people who could drive, who could do 10 minutes. And sometimes we would leave at like midday to do a gig in Devon, and we get back at
Yeah.
like 5 o'clock the next morning.
I know.
But the thing is, though, is one topic everyone loves talking about, and that's themselves. There's an implicit kind of tip of the hat involved in asking someone questions, isn't it? You're saying to them, I want to be like you. Can
Yeah.
you help me? And provided, just as that fella said with you, I noticed this as well. Provided you ask vaguely intelligent questions, people are just off. They're like, oh, well, that's a very good question. I mean, what I
Yeah.
find about dealing with Hindus, what you want to do there,
Hmm.
and you're right, and you are just like sucking it up, and you can't help get better. I'm always amazed at comics that, especially newer comics, that would turn up, do their set, and then leave. And you think, what else? I mean, it's possible you
Yeah.
might have something else to go to, but quite often you don't. There's no
Yeah.
substitute for being on stage, actually
Yeah.
doing it. But I think the next things are watching other people do it,
Yeah.
analytically. But then the real gold and a car journey is a captive audience, isn't it?
Yeah.
And what I
And
used to find
it's a
was,
great time to exchange all that. It's so much fun to be
yeah,
in a car with three other comics and
it's
you learn. You come away from that richer for it.
you come away richer for it, and then afterwards, what you do is you analyze the gig you did. Like, oh, what about the guy in the front row in the green jumper? Right, what'd you do with him? Oh, I did this. Like, yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
I'll do that next time. There's a sort of anything that's hard and comedy, even communication's hard, especially comedy. It should be like a sort of collaboration. It should be like, what have you found? And there is a brotherhood. You're absolutely right. Brotherhood, sisterhood. I don't want to gender or misgender anybody,
Yeah.
but yeah, you're this band of brothers and you stick
We
together.
yeah. We want the whole thing elevated. We want the crowd to come away having seen a good show. I want all the comics to kick ass because if the crowd sees a show that's uneven, they like the next time someone goes, "Hey, blah blah blah, you want to?" And like, I'm never going to a comedy show again. We're out of a job if there's no quality control. I think it's I'm going to go on record as saying I think it's incumbent upon older comics to pull some of these shit acts aside, put them in a headlock, and go, let me tell you everything you did wrong tonight that's making my job harder and in danger going forward. You know how
Absolutely.
many times, you know how many times I've had, let's just say I'm, whatever, it's a showcase or I had where somebody goes, and the punchline is this. And I'm like, mom being mum is the word mum is the punchline. It ends with like it turns out it was their mum. I had enough of that, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Working out, just like working out the order of what jokes to put where. Another thing within the joke, you're ordering and reordering all of the parts of it, and you're like, yeah, that's the funny. That's the bit that's
Mhm.
going to get the laugh. I want to say that and shut up. But so many people don't. You've got a premise that's funny, but they mess up the order of it, and
Yeah.
it finishes with them just, yeah, so that was what happened. And you're like, no, don't say
Yeah.
that, you moron.
Right. What you have is a premise. What you need is a joke.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Mike, while we're here, anything else you'd like to get off your chest? This has been a brilliant chat.
uh I could mention two shows coming up
Please,
In
that
London on the 22nd of February. I mean, I don't know when this is coming out. They might hear this in November and go, that's too bad. How long before this comes out?
pretty soon, pretty soon.
So in London at Act One Cinema in Acton, I'm doing my Star Wars show. It's called May You Be with the Farce, and it's pretty much a love letter to sci-fi. And it uses Star Wars as a touchstone, but I cover, like Wrath of Khan and Moonraker and anything in space, anything sci-fi related.
Yeah.
I'll probably throw in Colonel Sanders being bit unexpectedly by a zombie while shooting a commercial for chicken.
Oh yeah,
Um,
you could squeeze that into that show, defo.
yeah. And then the 23rd, which is a Monday, I'm at Comedia in Brighton. I'm doing something for the Brighton Italian Festival. It's the first time I put a title on a show of stand. It's just it needed a title. I called it "Leave the Cannoli, Take the Capozzola." So it's kind of a nod to The Godfather. But it's just it's an hour of stand up. There's no learning moment. There's nothing sensitive, thoughtful, nostalgic about it. It's just stand up. There's no, some people when they have a title on the show, they're obligated to bring it, put a bow on it. I don't have any of that. This is just stand up. But I
Good.
like the title, Leave the Cannoli, Take the Capozzola.
It'll be brilliant stand up, and I know the Comedia is a wonderful venue. Mike, more generally, how can people find out where you're doing what?
Well, I'm on Friendster and MySpace. No, my website is capozzola.com. But again, nobody spells it right. So you go capozzola.com, like it sounds. Good night. It's Capozzola, Capozzola. So it's capozzola.com. And
Got
it's
it.
got tour dates and a clip and all that stuff.
Well, anyone watching this, you should make your life better and find out where Mike Capozzola is playing because you will not be disappointed.
Oh,
Mike,
I don't know about that. I'll do my best to disappoint them, Sam. I'm sure
oh,
somebody will be
Mike,
disappointed.
get out of here, Mike. I don't want it. I get that enough from all the British self-deprecating tossers that I get on here. Never mind. You're supposed to be a brash American who's full of himself. There you go.
And full of crack. I will never forget the first time I bought crack. Ah, yeah.
Mike, I can't thank you enough for this. Best of luck
Thank
with
you.
everything you're up to, buddy. And I hope our paths cross again in real life very soon.
I hope so too. Sam, thank you for having me in.
Top man, absolute pleasure. Thanks for doing it.
Cheers.
So there you are. That was before, during, after, featuring the mighty Mike Capozzola. I think there were loads of tips, tricks, techniques, mindsets to get your teeth into if you communicate in your role. But here are three. Number one, narrative arc. The tip that Mike was told years ago about putting subjects on cue cards and moving them around is just gold. Order of what you say matters. Number two, the story about Adam Bloom treating comedy sets as if they're DJ sets, I thought was fascinating. As I said at the time, that's advanced level stuff, but certainly something to aim for. Number three, how fastidiously Mike still assesses his work. He's done thousands of shows, but still takes the time to listen back to most of what he does. I can tell you for a fact, regular assessment of communication can only equal an improvement. Thanks for listening to Before, During, After, a Smirk Experience podcast about performance from the inside. If you enjoyed it, why not share it with someone else who you think might get it? And give us a subscribe while you're at it. See you next time.